Peace and welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. Folks, we got a lot to talk about. First, let's talk about what's happening in the state of Kentucky as the Kentucky House has decided to move forward on defunding DEI at public universities. We're going to be checking in with my big brother, Shanadu Waporfor, to get the latest on that. Also, former President Donald Trump over the weekend at that Ohio rally, he shows that he is honoring those who were part of that January 6th insurrection. He does a little special tribute to them, calling them patriots. What does this mean as we move forward in the presidential campaign? We'll talk about that. Also, later on, we'll talk about the rise of Black history museums, how there are museums popping up all across the country that are now exhibiting different stories and telling our history the way it should be. And I'm going to tell you about one particular monument down in Montgomery, Alabama, that is absolutely fire. So, folks, we got all of that. And, of course, I want to hear what you got to say. Stay with us. It's all happening on today's edition of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. Let's go. All right, folks, welcome to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. Folks, we are streaming live on various platforms. First, let me tell you about our home platform. You can check us out there at blackstarnetwork.com. That's the website for the dynamic network that we're on, blackstarnetwork.com. You can go to the website, download the app for free. Make sure you go on and download the app on all of your devices, whether it's on a Google device, whether it's on Apple, regardless of what device you're on, you can download the app for free with Black Star Network. And we also invite you to check us out on social media and follow us at Black Star Network. Check us out there, as well as make sure that you put a little something in the bucket to continue to power us and move us forward in this digital movement. So go to our website today at blackstarnetwork.com, show your love, and we thank you for your support. Now, we're also streaming on a number of other platforms. You can check us out on the Amazon platform on your Fire TV. Check us out on Amazon News. We're also on Amazon Prime, so you can check us out there on the Prime Video app. Just find us on the Prime Video app under Live TV, The News, or find us on Amazon.com under Prime Video, Live TV, The News. We're also on the Freeview Network, where you can find us there. Just check out On Now under News for Black Star Network, and Plex TV, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Just search for Black Star Network or find us under Live TV, The News, and Opinion. Now, we also, folks, are streaming on Brother Roland Martin's social media. You can find us on his Facebook page, where we're streaming there, as well as his YouTube channel. And folks are checking in there on the chat. And big shout out to the online culture crew that's on the X platform, on the Facebook platform, and on the YouTube platform. Let's give them a little something for the culture crew, because folks are filing in. And I see y'all. Tiana, I see you. I'm on YouTube. Tiana, I see you. Cindy D, I see you. Brother Damon Blissett, I see you. Lori Parks, I see you. Brian Christian, I see you. Janelle Fields, I see you. The Stephanie Humphrey channel, I see you. Cindy D, I got you. Make sure y'all join us in the conversation. Post your comments, share your thoughts, and be a part of the discussion today. Now, I'm joined by my fantastic brother. This brother has so much great analysis and insight about what's going on in the world. He is a diversity, equity, and inclusion specialist. He's an activist, and he's just an all-around good brother. My brother and brother Shanadu Waporfor is joining me today. Shanadu, peace, big brother. How you feeling?
I'm good. I can't complain.
Good. Let's talk about what's happening in the state of Kentucky right now, where the Kentucky House voted last week, brother Shanadu, to stop funding for diversity, equity, and inclusion offices at public universities. And this is the ongoing trend that we're seeing in states that are led by Republicans, that they are stopping the funding, they are shutting down programs, they are blocking any type of initiative for DEI. And many in the Kentucky House, the GOP has essentially said that these efforts for around DEI is a failure, and Democrats defending them as pillars of support for students from underrepresented representative groups. Now, I want to share this part with y'all, folks. Take a look at this quote here from NBC News. On the second, I'm looking at the second paragraph. The overhaul bill passed the House by a vote of 68 to 18, sending it back to the Kentucky Senate, which passed a much different version. House members stripped away the Senate's language and inserted a replacement that takes a tougher stance on DEI initiatives at public university campuses. The Senate will decide in coming days whether to accept the new version. The GOP has supermajorities in both chambers. What do you make of this, Brother Shanadu, as this continues to be the trend in GOP-controlled states?
Yawn. I'm scared though. Like that, I think we talk about this all the time with DEI. We talk about this with affirmative action. Remember, these are not efforts to bring. And I love when people say, "Oh yeah, this DEI, this wokeness, it's bringing the worst of the worst or whatever, or it's changing the standards." It's not changing the standards. It's make sure the standards are balanced so that people who are not able, because of laws and racism, to get opportunities are able to get them. And if you need an example, look no further than your biggest favorite black coon, Clarence Thomas. Him getting into Harvard. The affirmative action was helpful to him because the way things were set up, they wouldn't even look his way. It's not about if you have the skills or not. It's that your laws are set up to not look folks' way. I think my issue with the DEI dog whistle that everybody's calling in every state is that it's pretending. It is pretending as if these Black or Latinx or Asian or women or LGBTQ, sexual gender minority folks that are given chances through these DEI initiatives, it's making it as if they are the less than. And yeah. I always push the opinion of, if you all are saying that, yeah, the DEI folks are the worst of the worst, if you need to be qualified, look at the people who weren't so DEI folks and their qualifications. Reagan and all of his mistakes, and Bush and all of his mistakes, and Trump. Why is there space for those who, quote unquote, got in the right way? Why is there space for those folks to not be perfect? But then when it comes to folks who are DEI, it's always that they are being labeled as they're the worst of the worst. And you see that's the same strategy that they use when they're discussing immigrants, when they say, oh yeah, they're illegals, they're the worst, they're the rapists, they're the killers. But then you want them to do labor, you want them to work at the factories. Like, make it make sense.
Hey, bro, I'm with you 1,000%. And it's crazy because there is this ongoing conversation as if DEI is the big boogeyman of society. Oh, we can't have diversity, we can't have equity, we can't have inclusion. And I'm wondering if Black folks in these states from Kentucky and other states that are pushing back against this, especially in the public university space, I'm wondering if Black folks are saying enough is enough, and whether there's a groundswell of folks that are going to kind of rise up and say, you know what, we're not going to take this anymore. These are public places, and if you start to shut it down, where they're saying, oh no, this is not acceptable, then you're essentially going against the interest of the public, and that's even a bigger problem for democracy. And so, I want us to have these, I think it's important for us to keep track of these states and how they're moving and how they're moving forward. Let me just say this, then we're going to take our first pause because a couple of crew members got something to say about this. And folks, post your comments as we're having these conversations. Cindy D, my sister, first up, you said America will need more Black history museums as DEI continues to be taken away. Black history is American history. Yeah, we're going to need more Black history museum. We're going to certainly talk about that. But then also, we're going to need some supplementary outside spaces to have these conversations about our history. ABX girl, I like what you said. You said, Cindy D, how YouTube content creators can also fill in our history space since DEI is going. We need to take advantage of technology. And I agree with the ABX girl as well, that if you're not seeing certain things happening, right, until we figure out the best way to kind of remove, stop some of these decisions, stop some of these votes, then we got to move to alternative to other spaces. And I think that's part of this game plan. you got to have a flexible strategy, because the Republicans, they're going to come one way, but we would have to come a different way. We would have to be much more innovative to make sure that the message is not lost. Look, I got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, let's continue to talk to Brother Sinead. Plus, the big culture convo for today is around former President Donald Trump, folks. And some of the things he not just said at that Ohio, yes, he talked about the bloodbath, but it's more interesting to see how he's using January 6th as the cornerstone of his bid for the White House, and why it just simply goes unmentioned, why no one is really saying, you know what, this is dangerous, and how this could possibly lead into something that we can't get ourselves out of as a country. Folks, we're going to have that big culture convo on the other side as well. Stay with us. It's the culture here on the Black Star Network.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
Don't you think it's time to get wealthy? I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show on the Black Star Network focuses on the things your financial advisor or bank isn't telling you. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20036-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol,
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate Black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
There's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad, joined by my brother Shanedu Wakofor, diversity, equity, inclusion specialist. He's also an activist and advocate. As we talk about what the Kentucky State House is doing as they're looking to defund DEI. Very quickly, brother Shanedu, I want to get your take on this. When you're talking about defunding these particular efforts, how much of an impact does that make, not just on the budget, but how much does that impact does that make or take away from the quality of the environment at these public universities? Because this is all a public university setting. So what are we talking about would change at a Kentucky public university?
Well, you think about Kentucky and its location, you think about the importance of first of all, you have to think about institutions. As much as institutions love folks that are in state, they also love people who are out of state and also international students, because out of state international students, they pay more money to go to university. So when you think about removing DE and I, you're also thinking about dwindling your incoming student numbers, because prospective student numbers, because folks don't want to go to a school where they're not understood. This is a different time. It's not okay for you to have a school that their cuisine isn't halal for those who are of faith, or even kosher for those who are of the Jewish faith, or even literally, or even having vegan and vegetarian options for those who are vegan and vegetarian. Like that, these are just very small things, but that is what DE&I is looking at. You're thinking about the sexual gender minorities. If folks' genders are not being affirmed at their schools, if certain bathrooms are not up to certain qualities, these are things that pronouns, these things, when you think about folks that are going to school, these are consumers. And when they go to, let's call the schools grocery stores, if the grocery store doesn't have what I need, and that is for multiple different groups, then I won't patronize that school. I won't patronize that business. And I feel like this could be hard because a lot of schools' strategies, HBCUs in particular, their strategies are to kind of pivot towards those of different cultures, to, again, grow the revenue, but also grow the dynamic of the institution. And again, these are just the small things. What about the staff and the administration that is to cater to these cultural competencies that are different? And it's not only DE&I for race. Let's talk about ADA. Let's talk about folks with disabilities. We have to also think about those who are neurodivergent. This is also what DEI is addressing. I think what's funny is when people look at DEI, they just, let's say what it is. You see DEI, you see nigga. That's what you think, but that's not what it is. And it's been proven many times that folks like to zero out on very specific things when it comes to diversity, equity, and inclusion. It's also for white women as well. Same thing we said about the affirm. It's also for women as a gender as a whole as well too. So we hear this, the statement, cut the nose to spite your face. Just like we said about affirmative action, that's what we're doing here. And this will affect everybody. Because what business, when you think about it from a economical perspective, think about these businesses that are coming in thanks to the Build Back Better, the IRA, Infrastructure Reduction Act, that President Biden has put into place. There are billions of dollars for multinationals to come into this country. Who are they going to look for? Where they're going to build their headquarters for making solar panels and things of that nature? It's more of the South that has the space. But the problem is you need people with the know-how. You don't get people with the know-how when you don't have diverse institutions.
That is heavy. That is heavy. And I want to share that with you. And let's go even further. In Kentucky, folks, this particular House passed version of this bill would ban, according to the reports, ban race-based scholarships and defund DEI offices and staff positions. It would prohibit the Kentucky Council on Post-Secondary Education, which oversees public universities, from approving degrees that require courses containing, quote unquote, discriminatory concepts. Can y'all imagine that? You go to a school and then they don't even recognize that your accreditation. They don't even give you a degree because it contains what they deem as discriminatory concepts. This is very deep. Very, very deep. Now, here's the other thing. There are about 30 states that have introduced bills banning or limiting DEI initiatives during their current legislative session. And, NBC News, they put up this map of the country. There are only 3 states in this country that have enacted any type of bill against DEI. Y'all can figure it out. Tennessee, Texas, and Utah. But there are a number of other states that either introduced DEI bills or that bill has passed at least one chamber of the state government. So we're seeing this. But getting back to the piece that is about public university, you're talking about the impact that it has on Black students, women, all types of minorities. And it's not just about the race. It also comes down to the degrees. And that is crazy. That is crazy that you can go to school in some of these states, and guess what? Your degree will not matter. All right, let me go to what the crew is saying around this issue. And folks, post your comments as we're talking a little bit about what's happening in the Kentucky House. Veteran of Truth, you said this: the new generation of young Black teens of America today have no clue what's going on in America and how their culture is being taken away. The same is being done to the Native American people. And you continue, Veteran of Truth, to say this struggle needs all people of color, Black, Latino, Asian, Middle Eastern, Native American must come together as we all have the same struggles against one race of people. Veteran of Truth, I truly appreciate you. Welcome to the chat. Thank you so much for that beautiful comment. What do you say to that, Brother Sinedu?
I was going to say, and this is where we call for solidarity, because I'm glad that Veteran of Truth spoke about Asian. Because what's interesting is people forget that there is a minority within Asian. When it comes to Asian students in particular in America, look at those going to Ivy Leagues. There's always a broader brush painted on Chinese students. But we're forgetting that there are so many other Asian countries in the ASEAN Council, whether that be, people from Myanmar, Thailand, the people from Cambodia. They sometimes, because we paint Asia, we say Asia, but what we're meaning is China. There are smaller countries within Asia that DEI will actually help to make sure that you are getting a representation at the seat of the table. And I think this is really where solidarity matters, because it's not just a Black thing. And even if it was just a Black thing, okay, let's say it was just a Black thing. If they do it and succeed with the Black group, because we are a small minority group, what do they think they're going to do to you if you're a small minority group? And we've seen that from time to time. In certain situations, we say never again to certain things. But if it happened to one group, it could definitely happen to another. And
absolutely,
I would close and say, interestingly enough, it just reminds me of when Trump was in office and they wanted to repeal Obamacare. But what do you have to replace it? Because if you have nothing to replace what you believe is problematic, then you're not repealing it because it's problematic or that it's an issue. You're repealing it because you're racist. Point blank.
Look, this is crazy. This is crazy. And this is all a concerted effort that I think that a lot of Republican GOP controlled states are putting into place as they try to clear a pathway for their nominee, Donald Trump, so that way he can do what he needs to do. And if he gets into office, it opens up the door for him to do certain things as well. So this is the very interesting. Again, this is the Kentucky House. It still has to pass the Senate there in the state of Kentucky. There is some tension around the language and how this will happen and how this will move forward. But these states, folks, there are a number of states, and y'all should just take a look at with NBC News or any other news source. Take a look at the states that have impacted or have introduced legislation against DEI. It might be your home state, right? It might be your own home state, the place that you call home, the place that you live, because you're going to have some different conversations, especially if you have young people that are looking to go to college. You have Black student athletes that are looking to go to college. What does that mean for us down the road? It's a lot to consider. Look, we're going to keep our eyes out on this larger DEI conversation, of course, with our brother Sinedu. Folks, we got to take another quick pause. When we come forward, let's jump into our big culture conversation around former President Donald Trump at that rally in Ohio that he did over the weekend, not only talked about the bloodbath, but there was something else that he did that should make this country say, whoa, we need to stop this train, and we need to stop this train quickly, as former President Donald Trump honors those who were a part of the January 6th insurrection. I'm going to share with you what the president did and why we need to talk about it. Stay with us. The conversation continues on the other side here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol, we've seen
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
Don't you think it's time to get wealthy? I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show on the Black Star Network focuses on the things your financial advisor or bank isn't telling you. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad, joined by my brother Shanedu Wakorfor. And I wanted to switch gears and talk about former President Donald Trump, Brother Shanedu. Because at the hey, look, I know some people are like, what? Oh, man. But I wanted to bring something up because I saw this piece in the Associated Press, and it clicked for me. It really, really clicked for me, right? And this is not coming from a space of fear. This is coming out of a space that we need to be aware. All right, folks. So crew, just take it as that. Like, that is the intention behind it. This is not to create fear, but this is just to make people aware that these things are happening. So the former president, he had a weekend rally in Ohio. He already said some controversial things about the car industry and bloodbath and those things. We talked about that yesterday. But this was his first rally where he is seen as the Republican Party presidential nominee. The thing that he did, let's put quote 1 up on the stage, please. Up on the screen, please. At this rally, Trump stood on stage, his hand raised in salute to the brim of his red MAGA hat as a recorded chorus of prisoners in jail for their roles in the January 6th attack sang the national anthem. Then an announcer at the rally asked the crowd to please rise for the quote, for the horribly and unfairly treated January 6th hostages. And people did, and they sang along to that national anthem. Then after that national anthem was sung, Trump said they were unbelievable patriots as the recording ended. He also previously vowed to pardon the rioters. He promised to help them the first day we get into office. Let me throw something else out there, Sinead Dooms, that I want you to take. Let's look at quote 2. In heaping praise on the rioters, Trump is shifting blame for his own role in the run-up to the bloody mob siege and asking voters to absolve hundreds of them and himself over the deadliest attack on a seat of American power in 200 years. At the same time, Trump's allies also are installing 2020 election deniers to the Republican National Committee, further institutionalizing the lies that spurred the violence. That raises red flags about next year when Congress will again be called upon to certify the vote. This is a piece coming from the Associated Press where they're looking at how former President Trump is using January 6th as a cornerstone for his bid to the White House, for his run to the White House. It got me thinking, Brother Sinead, that we are dealing with someone in a situation that this country has never been forced to really deal with before in modern history, in modern American history. There's a gentleman by the name of Jason Stanley, who is a philosophy professor at Yale, who studies authoritarian regimes. He warns of this type of exercise, and I'm going to share with you what he has to say in a moment. But what do you make of that? What do you make of Trump giving space, showing love and support to those who ran up? And people say, and some folks would say he is pro-American, but he's so pro-American that he is willing to honor and respect and even, relieve the burden, free those who have tried to destroy the government. How is it possible that a man like this, with this type of philosophy, with these type of ideas, is running for president of the United States? He shows there's no shame. I mean, he's not doing this stuff behind closed doors. There's no shame. There's no shame. He's called what some social scientists and political scholars say, he's called a revisionist, which is that his interpretation of what happened on January 6th is starting to become the interpretation of what happened on January 6th. Talk to me, Sinead.
Well, again, it must be great to be white and a male in this country because, again, Obama's biggest scandal was wearing a tan suit. I'll just keep saying that. I think Trump is doing what Trump does best. Like, he controls the pundits. He controls the libs on all sides. Like, I think Ana Navarro, a political commentator, she said this on The View yesterday, and I thought it was very, very poignant. She said, I find it interesting that anytime the Negro National Anthem is played, or when a black person wants to kneel for the American national anthem, it's this talk of being unpatriotic. But having people who try to storm the Capitol, who are in jail, rebranding them as patriots, as hostages, two adjectives that he would know nothing about, or nouns, excuse me, that he would know nothing about, because he avoided being drafted to the war because of bone spurs. So you don't know what a hostage is, and you don't know what a patriot is, because you're not a patriot, and you definitely are not aware of clear English language. But this is the thing. When you think about the Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde situation, I think America has to deal with the monster that we allowed to be created. This was an issue. I can say whatever I want about Hillary Clinton, but she warned us that this will only get worse if we let this man into the office. And we did. 75 million people agree that this man is right for America. And I think there is a funny term when we say he is a pro-America or a patriot. He is, but we have to also discover, and America has to realize that there's two Americas. It's the America that y'all want to be and the America that y'all are. He represents what America is, not what our dreams are to be. Because we said 40 acres and a mule, but who's 40 acres and who's mule? So when we use flowery words to describe our democracy and how great we are to whom, to how, to what, and through what? By enslaving people? By killing off the natives off of the land. That's what and I think Trump plays into that, because we know we have this white fear that everybody is going to take their power away. That everybody's going to take. Well, here's the question. Well, how'd you get the power in the first place? Was it democratic? And my sister always tells me the guilty person always has the most to say. They're always the most worried. The innocent person is chilling. And I feel like this white fear, if him even saying the idea of bloodbath, like these terminologies that he's using that just gets him more media play, get more people to donate, whether he wins or loses, what's going to take place between November and January next year should be alarming. This year into next year should be alarming to people, because he is good at playing at the fears of not just the poorest,
no,
just the dumbest,
no,
but the most intelligent as well. And they continue to back him up because America historically has always been about preserving the white male ego. It doesn't matter if you're smart, because we saw that with Gore Bush. Gore was a better candidate than Bush, but look who we got. That is America. So I think he's a visual example of what we really are. And it's funny because we all like to pretend like we're better than this. Fuck that. You have seen forms of Donald Trump your whole life. In your cities, in your towns. He has now made it to the big screen. America, smile. This is yourself.
All right, let's see what the crew has to say, and then we're gonna take another quick pause. Felita Cavett, welcome to the chat. You said, Felita, this is what the South did and has done with the Civil War. Axe Haley and Scott and Thomas and others. You're talking about that revisionist history, who tried to reimagine and try to redefine what we all know to be the truth, but they try to place it into a space of alternative facts, Felita. I'm with you right there. Thank you. And I hope that you continue to add to the conversation. As we look at this, Nicole Spicer, Nicole, my sister, you said we need to take the 45 seriously when he is threatening bloodbath if he doesn't get reelected. January 6, 2021 was a test run. I think that's the sentiment of a lot of people. That's the sentiment of a lot of people. Nicole, thank you so much for posting that. And I think that is what it's amazing to me. And I want to take another quick pause. But this is amazing. I mean, man, this goes to show you how far this revisionist history will go. In the same report from the Associated Press that they're talking about this, they quoted a staff member of Trump's. I want to pull this up real quick, and then we're going to take a quick pause. They quoted a staff member. Now, first, let me just let y'all know, more than 1,200 people have been charged in the storming of the Capitol. More than 1,200 people. So I wanted to throw that out there because some of us may not know how many people were actually charged. 1,200 people were actually charged. But listen to this. This is Trump's National Press Secretary, Caroline Leavitt. She said that the Justice Department has spent more time prosecuting the former president and targeting Americans for peacefully protesting on January the 6th than other criminals. 5 people died, folks, on January the 6th. That doesn't sound like a peaceful protest. Then she said this: President Trump will restore justice for all Americans who have been unfairly treated. Brother Sinedu, what Twilight Zone, Black Mirror episode are we living in, bro? What?
And again, what world are we living in when flowery words are only used for one people? You made a good point. 5 people died, right? 5 people died.
5 people died.
When the young folks rioted after the death of Freddie Gray in Baltimore, no one died, but y'all called it riots. Terminology is key. Is key here. Every time an underserved or a suppressed community voices themselves, it is riot. It is this. It's all these negative terms. But you all were rioting over democracy taking its place. There was no proof that the election was stolen. You all were rioting over democracy, and now you all are calling patriots when you are trying to take over your own government. Like, do you realize that the folks who were certifying at the time of January 6th, Republicans were still in power? So you're going, and that's why I think the Republican Party has such a deep fracture, because you were literally going against your own. What the hell are you even fighting for? And to me, I'm sorry, somebody has to say this. I am sick of white fragility. Y'all, we know what the hell they did on that day. Let's stop minimizing that. Because when yours and mine, when we go out and protest and we go out and rally, that is a stain on our city. Chicago is stained forever for when they riot. Detroit is stained forever. Baltimore, Philly, you name it. But then this is like we minimize it. Oh, they were fighting for their country. Their country? I just think, I'm sorry. I'm not carrying water. I'm not desensitizing. These people did some crazy ass shit, and I hope more of them will be charged for that. And we also need to be careful. A lot of those folks who went to jail are getting out soon. The average sentence was between 16 to 20 months. And it started over 1.5 years ago. We need to think about that too. By the time elections come, they will be free.
Wow. Look, I got to take a quick pause. I want to get some final thoughts with you, Brother Sinedu. So stick around. Folks, I want you to join me in the conversation. Continue to post your comments on the streaming platforms for Big Brother Roland, his Facebook platform, his YouTube channel. We would love to hear what you have to say as we're talking about former President Donald Trump honoring January 6th, taking time out of his rally time to show that he is in full support of those who stormed the Capitol on January the 6th. And he's using that as the cornerstone for his White House run. What's your take on this? Post your comments, share your thoughts, and then, of course, stay tuned. We still got more conversation about this on the other side here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol, we've seen
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Don't you think it's time to get wealthy? I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show on the Black Star Network focuses on the things your financial advisor or bank isn't telling you. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. And I got my brother Shinedu Wakoff over and get some final remarks from him as we talk about this issue of former President Donald Trump using January the 6th, honoring January the 6th rioters as part of the cornerstone of his run for the White House. At the weekend rally that he did in Ohio, he took time to play a special little tribute of those who were jailed as a result of their participation in the January 6th insurrection. And then he called them patriots at the end of the demonstration, along with just acknowledging the fact that he would vow to let them out of prison. Those who have been in prison unfairly and unjustly, as he puts it, he would get them out of prison on the first day he gets into office. If he gets into office. Brother Shinedu, this is so fascinating to me because when we look at how this thing plays out, I have never seen, first, none of us has ever experienced anything like this. This is, some would say, the political scholars say that this was one of the most deadliest attacks on American power in the last 200 years. So we haven't been around for certain things. So to see this happen, and I'm speaking of January the 6th, to see this happening and now to see the aftermath of this happening is something else. How it's being contextualized by both Democrats and Republicans and us as constituents is something else. And I wanted to share this piece from this professor very quickly. And I know, dear brother, and I thank you so much for your time. But I wanted to share this piece from this professor who talks about what we are actually looking at, what we are facing right now with this situation with Trump. This is coming from, again, from the report from from Associated Press. This is what it said. Let's put up quote 3, please. Thank you so much. When you're looking at all of the things that are happening, from the fact that they installing 2020 election deniers and all of these things into the RNC and just how they're revising history, taken together, it's what those who study authoritarian regimes, this is paragraph 1, folks, I'm looking at, is those who study authoritarian regimes warn is a classic case of what's called consolidation, where the state apparatus is being transformed around a singular figure, in this case, Trump. According to Jason Stanley, who is a philosophy professor at Yale, said, listen to Trump, he said. When a coup against the democratic regime happens and it's not punished, that is a very strong indicator of the end of the rule of law and the victory of that authoritarian movement. Now, Mr. Stanley is the author of a book called How Fascism Works. He also said, Americans have a hard time understanding that what happens in most of the world can happen here too. Woo! Woo! Brother native. What happens in most of the world? We hear about coups. We hear about governments being overthrown. We hear about factions of the citizens of the country deciding to take violent action. We hear about all of that. And some of us tend to believe, oh, that could never happen in America. But then we see January the 6th. We hear about political figures being attacked. We hear about judges being threatened because of, like, the judge down in the case of Fannie Willis down in Georgia, how he was threatened by Trump supporters. Like, you hear about these things, but there's still this thing in your head, like, this is never going to happen. But even more so than that, the very strong indicator of the end of the rule of law and the victory of that authoritarian movement. You said it earlier, bro. He's going through this whole process. This man is the presumptive nominee. He is going to be the nominee for the GOP, for the Republican for the Republican Party. And that means that in spite of his indictments, in spite of all that he has done, his fraud case and all of that stuff, this man can still run for president of the United States. This is unchecked, unpunished behavior. And people say, well, what did he do on January the 6th? Did you not hear the speech? Did he not say, we're going to take that walk down to Congress, to the Capitol? Unchecked. And I'm looking and I'm saying to Black folks in this country, we better wake up. And again, this is not rooted out of fear. This is rooted out of awareness that we have to wake up to recognize that if they aren't checking somebody who's supposed to be, quote unquote, for this country, if justice is not being served right now, then what should we expect? What can we expect? Go ahead, brother Sinead. You got the word on this, brother.
White people are always going to do white things. That is my belief. I think, again, it is, don't take my word for it. FBI director says that the biggest threat to national security in this country is white nationalism. Full stop. They were in full regalia. They were with their platoons in their many numbers. They were horse mounted, if you will, on January 6th. And the person who they kowtow from is the 88 indictment, twice impeached, disgraced, presumptive Republican candidate that is able to run for president. I just want y'all to understand that a person who can go to jail for certain issues in different states, Florida in particular, sometimes not even able to vote. Not even able to vote.
Right.
Some of us go and go to jail or go to prison or whatever and can barely get a job.
Right.
Based on our history. This is somebody who is 88 times indicted. This is somebody who has a history of being a failed businessman, a crude, shrewd businessman, a racist, a misogynist, anti-Semite. I mean, you name it. They're badges of honor for him. And this is the person that led a group of people who, by the definition, if y'all forget, FBI's job is to be the top cops of our country. And they said that white nationalism is our biggest threat. And we know that at least 3 white nationalist groups, at the very least 3, were responsible for what happened on that day as they adhered to their overlord, Donald J. Trump. There's nothing for me to say. We see the writings on the wall. And I say this, it's just white people playing around. And I say that because they're going to find ways to circumvent this. But I shout out to Tish James and Fannie Willis, Tish James in New York and Fannie Willis in Georgia, because yet again, Black women to the rescue. Sucks, but yet again, it seems like we are the only ones doing the job. So I don't have much to say here. I just want to watch this play out because I've seen white people in this movie before. I've seen them make a horrible depiction of themselves and win Oscars at the end of the day. So I'm just going to keep watching.
Hey, look, that's the only thing we can do to a certain degree. And I said this yesterday, Brother Sinead, on the show. I said the only thing that's stopping Trump from getting back into the seat is the people. The people, the American people, right? That's the only thing. We are literally in a time where our sanity, our view of ourselves, all of that is being challenged, and we're going to have to make some decisions. This is so much bigger than Biden and Trump. I'm really serious, y'all. This is bigger than Biden and Trump. This is bigger than Biden and Trump. You're seeing something happening, right? And as the American people, you got to ask yourself the question, like, where do I stand on this? It said in a piece from AP News that even as Republicans worry privately that Trump risks turning off women and independent voters he would need in the general election rematch against Biden, top aides have said there's only so much that they can do as Trump is going to be Trump.
And those white women will vote for him. We saw that in the exit polls because, and I think everything is historical, and this is why people ban books. Just like what we saw in slave times, just like what we saw in the feminist movement. It has been proven that white people will go against themselves, white women in particular, will go against their own interests just to uphold the white patriarchy. Because you barely hear people denouncing this man unequivocally. We saw with Nimrata, Nikki Haley, when she decided to step down, she said, "I will not endorse him." We'll see. We heard Mike Pence say that on the news on Sunday, that he is not in support because of his, evangelical values.
Right.
Why just can't you know what I find funny?
What?
When it comes to our Black community, when we want to move up somewhere, we basically have to go on TV and say, "I don't fuck with certain niggas." Y'all know who I'm talking about. We have to basically say it in those words. Obama did it. Everybody of high stature. We basically have to go and say those words. "I don't fuck with y'all." But I find it interesting that when it comes to our these folks who are on the Republican side, they find all these different ways to skirt around saying, "I'm not fucking with this man." I mean, isn't white supremacy amazing? Isn't it interesting how they do?
It's amazing. I say white supremacy when the comments about his bloodbath, the bloodbath comments came out over the weekend. I posted on one of those gossip blogs or whatever. It's like white supremacy is a hell of a drug.
It is.
You know what I'm saying? It's a hell of a drug. And when you got to the point where you can't even stand on any type of morals, values, or you can't stand on no principles. Mitch McConnell, weak as water. You reluctantly endorse him. Other Republicans in the party, y'all know the man is destroying the party. Y'all know the man was, his own followers were calling for, y'all were the ones running on January the 6th in the hallways of Congress. You weren't being embraced. You were running from them. You were just as afraid as Nancy Pelosi and all of the other Democrats, but then you stand with the man. And this is, again, this is bigger than one man. It's this, you stand with this idea of that, oh man, well, if I don't stand with them, then they're going to do this to me. And that's weak.
At the very least, Mitch McConnell, he made fun of your wife. Your wife. And you still rolling with him.
And you still rolling with him.
See, at the very
least. You see what I'm saying? Mike Pence, look. Hey, bro, Mike Pence flip-flop on his support, right? But these are the same supporters that had a gallows in the middle of the White House, right there on it, saying hang him. But you like, you doing this, what? And then you expect the American people to take you seriously. You expect the American people to follow your moral authority, but you can't come outright and just denounce a man that whose followers literally tried to kill you and who has not said anything to derail that. He didn't say, oh, no, don't go that far. He kind of laughed at it.
A wise man once said that behavior that we're talking about is called bitch assness.
Look, I can't take it. Man. Like, this is crazy. And then again, I'm gonna go back to this and I'm gonna let you go, brother Sinead. We got to take a quick pause. Then after all of this, here's how it comes back home for Black America. We see all of this stuff happening. We see the diminishing of the rule of law. We see all of these special conditions being made for him and his people. And then you want us to put hope and faith in a system that doesn't even punish the most flagrant violator of the system. But you want us to put hope and faith in that? No, come on, man. Come on. Look, we got to take another quick pause. Brother Sinead, my brother, I thank you for the extra time you gave us today. Truly appreciate you, bro. I thank you. God willing, we'll reconnect with you next week, man. But thank you so much for being, all right?
Yes, sir.
All right, bro. Look, I got to take a quick pause. When we come back, let's get more of your comments. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
Don't you think it's time to get wealthy? I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show on the Black Star Network focuses on the things your financial advisor or bank isn't telling you. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it.
This is about covering us.
Invest in black-owned media.
Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff.
So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible.
Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is roland@rolandsmartin.com.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol,
we're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
There's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. We've been talking about former President Donald Trump and how he has done his part to show his support and honor to those who were a part of the January 6th riot. And this is a cornerstone. This is a part of his White House run, folks. At his rally, his weekend rally in Ohio, he took time out to play a little snippet, some sound from those who were jailed while singing the national anthem. And then during the course of that moment, the announcer from his rally said to please rise for the horribly and unfairly treated January 6th hostages. Not people who literally ran up on the Capitol, climbed the walls and busted into the Capitol, spread feces on the wall, rummaged through offices, put their feet up on the desk, destroyed stuff. Not those people, but those who are horribly and unfairly treated January 6th hostages. Over 1,200 people have been arrested and charged as a result of their involvement with the January 6th insurrection. But the revisionists on the GOP side would like to call them hostages. And even one Trump staff member said that this was a peaceful protest, even though some folks in the chat said, well, who died? Well, 5 people have died in connection to this protest, this peaceful protest. One was shot by Capitol Police. Another died of a drug overdose. And 3 of them died of what they call natural causes. But it's really stemming from the trauma that they had to endure on the day on January the 6th. Many people were injured, 174 police officers. And then 4 officers who responded to the attack died by suicide within 7 months. Who died? A lot of people died. More importantly, those who were doing their jobs, the Capitol Police and other agencies and law enforcement agencies, they were affected by that. I mean, truly, truly affected by this mob storming the Capitol. So I wanted to take a few more moments to get your take on this, because what we're seeing in this country, even with the candidacy of former President Trump, is something that I don't think any one of us are truly have been, familiar with. And I'm gonna go back to what the philosophy professor at Yale said when he said Americans have a hard time understanding that what happens in most of the world can happen here too. He's the writer, Jason Stanley. He is the author of the book How Fascism Works. But he talks about us having a hard time to accept the fact that in this part of the world, that in our quote unquote democratic system, that you could have a situation like this. It's just hard for us to wrap our minds around because we have been so used to rule of law. We've been so used to, and I'm gonna just say that with tongue in cheek, because as Black folks, we've always gotten the short end of the stick. We haven't received full justice as we deserve, but we have been so used to kind of things being in a stable. Sometimes when they get chaotic, yes, they would have moments of chaos, but then at the end of the day, it will kind of come back down to a point where we get some new people in office, we change some policy, but we're looking at something very different here, folks. We're looking at something very different here. Let me go to what you have to say, crew, and I'm gonna just take just a few more minutes to have this conversation. Brian Christian, my brother Brian, thank you for checking in. You asked a question, and this is rooted in the question that Dr. King posed to this country many years ago. But you said, what's it going to be, everybody? Chaos or community? Chaos or community? Well, what's at the root of a community? The root of a community is for us to be on the same page with one another, right? For us to understand that we have the similar views on how the world is and our placement in the world. But then there's another element to community. A good community should be rooted in truth. A good community should be rooted in reality. And we're seeing now that the reason that there is some ensuing chaos is because truth has been made into lies, reality has been made into fantasy or alternative facts. And as a result of that, we're in a space where we don't know which way is up anymore. I mean, if you take a step back and take a look at this and say, man, how does a person that has all of these charges against them? I mean, this man is facing a $454 million judgment for committing fraud. His people are already saying, we're going to talk about this later in the week, but his people are saying he can't pay this. But the simple fact is that he was charged and found guilty of fraud. But he's running for the president of the United States, and he has a fraud charge on his record. Chaos or community? Chaos or community? You don't like my music, you checked in, good to connect with you once again. You said power thinks real community is chaos. Hey, look, this is interesting, and I appreciate you for posting that you don't like my music, because if y'all go and do a Google search, I just started doing Google searches for like certain words, and these words are becoming much more prevalent and relevant in this day and time now. Chaos is the new hot word in politics. There is, if you just do chaos, politics, American government, you will get a bunch of just a lot of information. Chaos is being talked about within government. This is becoming the new order of things within our government, chaos and confusion. It has been like this, but now it really has taken on shape and size, and it has found a home, and it has found its provocateurs, and it has found advocates. Chaos. Just Google search. I did it. I was like, damn. When we talk about chaos in this, we're talking about destabilizing systems. When we're talking about chaos, we're talking about creating uncertainty within governments. Chaos or community. Let me see what else y'all say. Sean Ryan, you said, I want to know who gets that $450 million. Probably the state of New York. Probably the state of New York, Sean. Let's keep on going, because this is, and I'm going to do my part here on The Culture. We're going to continue to have these conversations, and this is not about creating fear in anyone. This is not about creating fear. The way that you remove fear is that you got to have an awareness. You have to know what's really going on. So that way you can start to think of ways to handle the situation, right? Because once the fear comes in, because there's some level of uncertainty, there's some level of darkness. No, we're not going to operate in the dark anymore. The American people deserve to be in the light. And that's going to require some hard truths. That's going to require some uncomfortable conversations. But if this country is looking to get back on a track where it is truly about the people and the best interest of the people, right? And even, and this is the interesting part about the government of this country, because we do all live together or within the same boundaries, right? All 320 million of us in this country. We live in the same boundaries. We're not going to all think the same way. We're not going to see the world. We each have our various, an own unique experience of what life is. We go through all of those things. But the fact is that as a country, we got to figure out some different things. And that is going to be the real challenge. That's really what's on the ballot in November. The real thing that we need to check off on, or the real thing that we're going to have to vote upon, is who do we want to be? What type of country do we want this to be? What type of government do we want to have, right? That's what's on the ballot. It's not just about, the personality of a Trump, the personality of a Biden. It's talking about what is the true vision that the constituents have, not what political figures want us to embrace, but what is the vision that you have in your life as part of this country called the United States of America? That's the question that I think that many of us, or at least all of us, the adults, registered or unregistered voters, we're going to have to ask ourselves, what type of country do I want to live in? What type of place do I want to be seen in and to be heard in? And is this the place that I want to live in? Is it consistent with where I am right now? Because then that requires you to look at the truth. You have to look at the place that you're in. You have to see things the way they are and not what you hope or wish for them to be. Very important. Very important. Let's get one more here. Pauline, you said unbelievable, Farajii, isn't it? It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. But that's why we have these shows, and that's why we have these conversations. Let me try to get one more, and then I got to take another quick pause. Lori Parks, you said, keep checking. You are still registered. New voters must register to vote. Roe v. Wade affected those GOP women voters on a personal level. Their lives were in jeopardy because of their pregnancies. Right. So we know that. We know that there are many different policies that are in place right now, or that have been repealed as a result of either ignorance or political pandering or whatever the case may be, that has affected how we are in this country and how we see ourselves. So we have a lot of work to do. Even over these next 8 months leading up to the November election, we have a lot of work to do. President Biden talks about, going into the soul of America. The best way for us to look at that is to do the soul work. What is the self work? And it's hard to look at yourself and to see your own darkness, your own shortcomings. It's hard. But that's what America's going to have to do. That's what Black America's going to have to do, and white America, and all of the folks that are a part of this country. We're going to have to do that. We're going to have to do some soul work to figure out what it is that we want to see, because it is this type of space that we're in right now where we're like, I don't know. This is how you can get a person who has all of these indictments and charges and cases and all of this stuff to run for president, because we're not sure, or guess what? We are really just that messed up of a group of people that we just say, you know what? I don't care. I don't care. I don't care if a misogynist takes office. I don't care if a man who has committed fraud takes office. I don't care if a man who's considered to be racist has taken office. I don't care if a man who some would say is a narcissist has taken office. I don't care. As long as he gives me a few dollars off of that tax break, or as long as he does this, a la carting somebody in order for us to get a little gain. But here's the thing, folks. Here's the thing. Nothing in this country affects only one group of people. If it affects one, it affects all because we're all interrelated. So yeah, so a policy that might be good for white America, but it could be detrimental to Black America, it affects us all because we are in this thing together. All right, I got to take another quick pause. When we come forward, let's switch gears. Let's talk about the rise of Black museums in this country and how it's important that in spite of DEI bans and bans on other pieces of our history, there is still a space for Black people and particularly Black children to learn about their history. I'm going to be checking in with sister and artist Bonita Oliver to talk to us about this latest trend of Black museums that are cropping up all over the country and why we need to be supportive. Stay with us. This conversation is on the other side here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for a Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it.
This is about covering us.
Invest in Black-owned media.
Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks.
We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible.
Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland@RolandSMartin.com.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol, we've seen
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate Black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
There's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Don't you think it's time to get wealthy? I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show on the Black Star Network focuses on the things your financial advisor or bank isn't telling you. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation as we're streaming live on the various platforms. You can check us out on Big Brother Roland Martin's social media at Facebook, and we're on his Facebook page, we're on his YouTube channel, and also big shout out to those who are watching us on the X platform. So big shout out to the Culture crew on all three of those spaces. Thank you so much for being a part of the discussion. We wanted to have a conversation about museums and how our history is being told. And I'm saying, and I wanted to have this conversation because there is a dope new exhibit that's happened that's on display down in Montgomery, Alabama. And I'm gonna share more about this exhibit, but it's absolutely dope. But I wanted to have at least a conversation because there's a number of places around the country that are creating spaces for Black history and our stories to be told. So we're talking about the rise of Black museums. And here joining us is my sister, who is AKA, her name is French Leave. French, and I appreciate her for checking in. She is a Harlem-based, multidisciplinary performance artist and improviser. She creates these dope pieces, emotional pieces, body and space, a lot of concept art through voice and music, and she uses a lot of different mediums to tell our stories in a very, very personal and unique and very healing way. And so we want to welcome her to the airways of The Culture here on the Black Star Network, my sister, Bonita Oliver, AKA French Leave. Sis, how you feeling this afternoon? Peace and blessings.
Peace and blessings. Thank you so much for having me on today. I love your show, so thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Let's talk a little bit about, I didn't really get a chance to, you got a lot of accolades for the work. You've been doing this. You've been in a number of different spaces, from the work that you're doing in New York, the work that you're doing for women, the work that you're doing for Black people all across this country. So you bring a lot to the conversation. What do you make around this idea that there are a number of Black places, there are a number of museums that are cropping up, and this is based on what I'm seeing here. And USA Today just recently did a piece around this. They said several Black museums have opened in recent years, with more coming soon. And they actually created a list, a whole list of African-American museums that have recently opened, such as the Harriet Tubman Museum of New Jersey, the historic Mitchellville Freedom Park in Hilton Head, South Carolina, the Jackie Robinson Museum in New York, Morgan State University, Lily Carroll Jackson Museum in Baltimore, the National Museum of African American Music in Nashville, International African American Museum in Charleston, South Carolina, the National Hip Hop Museum in DC, the HBCU Museum in Washington, DC, the Greenwood Rising Museum in Tulsa, Oklahoma, the Legacy Museum in Montgomery, and you still got more. What do you make of this, sis? What does this say to you?
Well, first of all, this is amazing. I'm so happy that we have this access, that we are telling our stories, that we are making sure that history is told correctly. I am excited that this list has been compiled. In fact, I need to get that list. But there are also museums that have been in existence for some time that people don't really know about. And I'm here as a representative of PAMUSA, which is the Pan-African Historical Museum USA in Springfield, Massachusetts. And there are so many of these museums that have been around for some time that we also need to know about. But in any case, I think that right now, there's no better time than now to have this upsurge in new museums when history itself is being threatened in terms of our educational system. There are so many people pushing back on making sure that history is told in a way that truly reflects what has happened on this planet. So, absolutely.
And sis, what do you make of this? I think that it's important for us to have museums, and I'm very excited to even have these museums. But there's a little part of me that says, as much as people say, well, if we just had a museum, then our history will be told. But then there's another part of our culture where we have to even value even having a museum, to even take our children or to take ourselves to see it. Like I grew up in Baltimore, relocated to LA, but in Baltimore we have the Blacks and Wax Museum in East Baltimore, right? But part of the issue that they face, as in even in a predominantly black city, Sister Benita, even in a predominantly black city like Baltimore, they still struggled to get black folks to come through the museums. They had to do fundraisers. They had to look for sources for funding outside of, with the state of Maryland and other places, right? Because culturally, that is still not, correct me if I'm wrong, it's still not a part of our experience growing up.
Sadly,
am I right or wrong on that?
Sadly, I do not think you are wrong, unfortunately.
Okay. I thought I was crazy.
No, and that makes that, it hurts. It hurts, but it's very true. It starts at home. We have to make sure that we are raising our children, exposing them to alternative sources of information, letting them know that there is value in our history and our stories and our personhood and our humanity. We have to change our value system. So that I think is a big part of understanding why we have the situation that we have where people aren't supporting these museums that have been in existence. I think that parents need to take their kids from an early age to museums. Luckily, I was blessed to have parents who understood the importance of this. I spent a lot of time at museums. I was involved in museums. I was a part of a junior docent program, basically a program that allowed young people to facilitate tours at the local museums. And again, I'm from Springfield, Massachusetts. So that program was initiated by a woman named Luana Hood. She had an inroads with many of the cultural institutions in Massachusetts where I'm from. But we need to value our history. We need to value the arts. We need to see them as a means of storytelling, as a way of seeing our world, reflecting on our world. It's so important to have these institutions.
And what kind of programming needs to happen at these museums? There's another great museum that exists in Baltimore, the Reginald F. Lewis Museum in Baltimore. It's a big museum in like downtown Baltimore, really around it's in the tourist area of the city. Beautiful museum. I mean, the building is beautiful. They got all different types of exhibits. So it's really, really dope. But what kind of programming are we talking about here that is really going to capture the hearts and the minds and the spirits of our people to say, you know what, this is something that we needed. And again, like I've done work with the Reginald F. Lewis Museum. I was involved in a couple of programs, and I'm gonna tell you, when I go to the programs, some days, depending on what was happening, it would be packed out. They would have us in 200, 300 people. Other days it would be like less than 50, right? So what type of programs do you think are needed, and how can artists be a part of that process to engage the community to such a level that we do see the museum as another major institution of our community?
Well, thank you for asking that question. I think creating work that is immersive, that is interactive, also reaching out to schools, to educational systems, making a bridge between these museums and schools is a great way. And I think people who are passionate about history, like yourself, like me, anyone who is on here probably is passionate about, our story being told. So taking an initiative and creating these programs where there are none. I think our culture, we love music as a means of communication, as a means of storytelling. I think creating these experiences that are engaging on multiple sensorial levels, these are all ways to kind of spark interest in our young communities. So Luana, the woman who started PAMUSA, she was one woman, one individual. And she approached the local museums to get a program started for young people. She succeeded in doing that. And to this day, years later, this was started in 1995. This museum is still in existence. And it started with one woman, taking it upon herself to make the initiative to get these programs started. So, and now they're in schools in the city. They create programming with partner institutions, and it's a tremendous resource. So I think, again, incorporating, engaging the community through incorporating multiple different mediums of art and storytelling is important.
Very, very important. Sister Bonita, we're going to take a quick pause. When we come back, I want to continue to get your thoughts about this idea of the topic of the rise of Black museums. Plus, I want to highlight a sculpture park in Montgomery, Alabama. And I'm sure you've seen the pictures, Sister Bonita, and I'm going to ask my team to pull the pictures up. Wait till y'all see the Freedom Monument Sculpture Park. I got to share some pictures, especially if you're already in the Alabama area, in the Montgomery area. I've never seen any type of exhibit like this, but this needs to be in every park across this country. It is super dope. We're going to talk a little bit about that as we continue the conversation on the other side. Folks, join us in the discussion, post your comments in the chat, and stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it.
This is about covering us.
Invest in Black-owned media.
Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks.
We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible.
Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punching!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland. Hey, Black, I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation as we're talking about the rise of Black museums. And I'm joined by my Sister Benita Oliver, who is a multidisciplinary performer and artist. She is one who has been doing the work of using art to tell stories in a very, very special and unique way, encompassing, including all types of medium, from music to pieces to everything she can put her hands on to tell the stories that need to be told. And she is also an awarded artist. She's been doing the great work. She's Harlem-based, so you know how Harlem rolls. Y'all know how Black Harlem is, man. Y'all know how Black folks in Harlem is with the arts. We ain't even got to talk about that history, because that history runs deep and long, and
Yes, indeed.
They have been on the front lines of using art and creating the Renaissance like never before. But our Sister Benita Oliver is joining us. She's got and Benita, I want to make sure that we do you justice by putting out the information about your upcoming event that you have at the Chelsea Factory that's coming up in April. So I want to make sure we do that. But I want to kind of get your take on what we're still seeing here. A lot of this, as we're talking about museums, is rooted in funding. I know as an artist, this is a huge, huge challenge for artists. My sister Lana, she said, we must demand for federal funding of these spaces and demand our tax dollars are used to support our history. And I'm in full and complete agreement with that, Lana. Absolutely. There should be a line item in every state budget for Black museum and Black spaces. But talk to us, Sister Benita, about how we should work on that. If the state is, especially in some of these states that don't even like, DEI, they don't want to teach Black history. How do we fund these type of spaces?
Yeah, well, that is the question, isn't it? That is the question, because that would only be a start, first of all, but it would be a great start to actually make sure that in every city there is funding for museums, especially historical museums. I think, again, it comes down to us advocating and making sure that we are putting the pressure on to ensure that these museums are either created or supported, that they're not under threat of losing their spaces. I mean, I know that happens. Sometimes a community-run museum, is just kind of like hanging by a thread. So it takes community support to be able to ensure that these institutions can continue to serve the community. So we need to self-advocate. We need to get out there and make sure that we're putting the pressure on to ensure that these museums are funded.
Absolutely, and there is a reason for it. I want to pull up, if we can, Lise. Let's pull up the picture of the museum in Montgomery, Alabama, folks. This is the Freedom Monument Sculpture Park in Montgomery, Alabama. Look at this one. These are the type of images. This is coming from
Simone Leigh.
This is part of the equal justice. Have created a space or sculpture parks, and they have a number of them. This is just one of them. But look at this. The Equal Justice Initiative in Montgomery, dedicated to taking an unflinching look at the country's history of slavery, racism, and discriminatory policing. They have a number of different sites, and let's see if you get a chance, Lise, let's pull up the one for Freedom Monument Sculpture Park, the latest one, and I sent that link to you. But when you're looking at this, when you see these things, right? Like I've been to a lot of different museums, but when you see our people express our story, our pain, our trials and triumphs, when you see all of that, it's really a different experience, Sister Benita. It is such a different experience, right? And I have two small children. My son is 10, my daughter's 4, and we, exposed them. We exposed them, like let them know. Like that Black history, the Great Blacks in Wax Museum in Baltimore, they have an exhibit around slavery. And you go down to it. Now this right here, look at this, y'all. Make this real big. This is dope. Thank you so much, Lise. This is Black Renaissance by Raven D. Clark. It's bronze 2023, but This is the museum. Look at this sculpture park. This is the Freedom Monument Sculpture Park in Montgomery, Alabama, where you can take a path past some of these pieces depicting the lives of enslaved people in America. Look at this thing is incredible. This is incredible. This is in Montgomery, Alabama, one of the traditionally known as one of the most racist cities in the country, and you see in this type of work. Incredible.
It's so beautiful. And, this is what I'm talking about in terms of creating immersive experiences. They have many different artists displaying work. I have not been, and I plan on going myself. But you're also able to see some of the modeled homes that some people who were enslaved would have lived in. You're walking through different pathways to see different sculptures, different representations of our people with a dignity that is deserved. Our ancestors were so powerful to be able to survive what they did. And the contributions that we have made to society are innumerable.
Absolutely.
So putting our people on display in such a beautiful and dignified way. It's very important for young people to see this from an early age. And I'm a big supporter of that. And I hope everybody will go to see this if they can. Take a museum tour. That's something that I've always, my parents, we would do. We would travel to different museums across different states to see what's out there. This is a way for families to bond, to come together, to have new experiences together. After you go to the museum, you come home, you reflect on what you saw, you have conversation to digest what you just saw, to process what you just saw together. Everyone, having a chance to respectfully share. This is important. This is not only important for our self-awareness, for our self-esteem, for building, but it's also about building connection and community. I hope everyone will go and also check out that list that you mentioned early on in our conversation. Take a family trip and do a museum tour.
Absolutely. And that list is from USA Today. So all you got to do is Google Black museums and USA Today. I know we're short on time. So talk to us about the upcoming event that you have for Namesake by you, Benita Oliver. It's at the Chelsea Factory. If y'all want to get more information, you can go to chelseafactory.org, Chelsea, CHELSEA, factory.org. Sister Benita, what is this exhibit or this event that you have coming up?
Thank you so much for giving me the space to share. So For Namesake will be at Chelsea Factory in New York City on April 3rd at 7:30 p.m. I am so grateful that International Contemporary Ensemble will be premiering one of my musical pieces, one of my musical compositions, and also Chelsea Factory is hosting this, and I will also be displaying one of my tapestries, my visual art pieces. So again, that's April 3rd at Chelsea Factory in New York City. This is really about an exploration, which I find interesting that in this monument, there's actually a tribute where people are able to look at the surnames that people who were enslaved, once they were freed, they took on different names, either names that they created or names that they had just heard that were, names that were around them. Sometimes they took on the name of people who had enslaved them because, of course, our identity, our sense of connection to our roots was taken away. So this piece For Namesake is actually also a reflection on that. It's mapping the journey of our surnames and examining the power dynamics of surnames, how it actually kind of maps a story of what has been done. So, I'm actually looking at this through the lens of my own family surnames. Of course, these names don't have any connection to my bloodline. They were names that were given to my ancestors or that my ancestors took on. And so I'm exploring the roots of the surname, and again, what atrocities to people and to land that have been done in those names. And it's basically an invitation for collective healing and contemplation. Now, how do we reset the trajectory as we bear these names moving forward?
Chelsea Factory is the place, folks, and my sister Bonita Oliver is the woman behind it. It's called For Namesake, and this is at the Chelsea Factory on April the 3rd at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. It's a small fee to get inside. I'm talking about super small fee, y'all, to get inside, but you will not be disappointed about what you can expect to see. Sister Bonita, I cannot thank you enough. We got to bring you back more to have more conversations about the arts and how we can continue to use it to empower our people. But I thank you so much for joining us today here on The Culture.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure. Thank you.
Absolutely. You're welcome. All right, folks, make sure y'all support my sister Bonita Oliver, the Chelsea Factory. Check that out at chelseafactory.org. All right, folks, our time has been well spent. I thank each and every one of you. I hope you enjoyed the show. Make sure you support us at Black Star Network. Go to our website today. Download the app at blackstarnetwork.com. Download the app. Follow us on social media. Also follow me, yours truly, on social media at Farajii Muhammad, on Facebook at The Real Farajii, on Instagram, and at Farajii on the X platform. And I would love to connect with you. Stay tuned. Up next at 6 p.m. is Rolling Martin Unfiltered. As always, never be afraid to challenge what's wrong, stand for what's right while being yourself in the process. God willing, we'll talk tomorrow for another exciting edition of The Culture right here, exclusively here on the Black Star Network. Talk to you soon. Peace.